At Your End Step is brought to you by Comic Town and BCW Supplies. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And we have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. Sort of like a calm before the storm, it feels like. We have like some new stuff, a little bit of tournament news, but there's not like huge earth-shattering things happening, I guess. I mean, that depends on your opinion. We do have some pretty good cards to talk about here from
like just
Core Set
downplaying
19.
a bunch of really cool new cards and reprints.
But like,
no, back off. No, you're done. You're wrong.
What I'm saying is
you're
like
wrong.
we don't have like the full set review, so we're only going to talk about some highlights for sure. But it's not like 4 hours of card talk.
Well, no, of course not.
So it's not like a huge amount of tournaments. Like we had Vegas, which is big, but half the tournament was...
a lot of really cool things happened last week. And I don't know why you were like, hey, welcome to the fun-filled, but honestly, it was kind of boring. No, stop that. That is a bad sell. It's a bad sell.
It's a little calm. It's a little like chill out.
You didn't make it sound calm. You made it sound boring.
Sorry, I meant like
tranquil.
I meant it to be like that.
You know what? This episode of At Your End Step, make some tea.
Make some tea.
Drink it. But be careful when you do, because, I could say something real funny, and then you could get tea out your nose.
That's true. Make it loose leaf, because it's just better. Like, if you make it out of tea bags, that's garbage tea.
It's true. And if you have loose leaf tea, then you can read the dregs at the bottom, and if you get the grim, that's sad.
That's no good.
Bad things.
Don't do that. Don't show that to Professor Trelawney.
No, Sybil does not deal well with that.
She's not going to have a good time. Anyway, but we do have some exciting and fun things to talk about, but I just want to have a chill time about it. I don't know. Just feeling kind of relaxed
So,
today.
you want me to, talk like this, man?
No,
just
it's okay.
Hey, welcome to At Your End Step.
I have to, turn you up on the recording, and then, you're going to laugh, and it's going to be real loud, and you're going to hurt people's ears.
That's how I laugh in this voice.
That's how you're going to laugh this episode?
That was humorous.
Anyway, but like I kind of alluded to, we do have some new cards to talk about from M19, and then we have GP Las Vegas to talk about as far as tournament news, and then we'll kind of go into the wrap up here at the end. But let's get started. Let's talk about some exciting things from M19. We are in full spoiler season at this point in time, and we had a little bit of trickling out of cards over the weekend and a little bit before that. A lot of commons and some uncommons. Nothing too earth-shattering, I would say. But on Monday, we got some pretty healthy reprints. Now, I will temper my excitement because they are mythic rares. But we got both Crucible Worlds and Scapeshift at mythic rares in M19, which are obviously modern to with Crucible Legacy or even further back Vintage powerhouses. These are important cards in certain archetypes, and Crucible we've seen a couple of times, but Scapeshift we've only seen once, and they're going to be in M19. You can buy sets of that and open up some really awesome cards.
Yeah, I don't know. People saw Scapeshift, and I saw some people already asking well, are we going to get a payoff? And it's I doubt it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get Valakut, but I mean, technically there are some payoffs in the format if you just want to ramp. Things like the Mending of Dominaria work pretty well with Scapeshift, so that's interesting. And Crucible, we have a lot of enablers actually, because all the deserts are still legal for a little bit. Plus we have Field of Ruin. So you can still slowly but surely at least get rid of all the basics, or make sure your opponent only has basics. So
and that's certainly powerful, especially when you have really good lands that we have in the format, or enchantments that turn into really good lands in the format. But it's really strong with the all the cycling lands that draw you stuff. It's it's still just pretty good with things like Evolving Wilds, to be perfectly honest. So I mean that card is very expensive in Modern, and it's seen a lot of play in a lot of different decks in Modern. So I'm glad to see that it's getting a reprint in a set that's going to be printed more times than it was in the original time that it came out, or when it came out in 10th edition. So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be nice.
I wanted to make mention before we talk about other specific cards of the article that Mark Rosewater wrote this week for the core set, just because it was talking a little bit about core design, and he likes to like go to those. He mentioned the article Metamorphosis from a few years ago, which is why they got rid of core sets. And they talked about sort of their philosophy when they brought them back. And the core set was always the set that was meant to be for newer players. If you have not played that long, they used to have different, like they had different skill levels graded per set. So the core sets were always like medium. Then you had beginner, which were like portal and things like that, and an expert or any core or any like main blocks.
Right.
So like that's always how it's sort of been set up. But he mentioned how they wanted to like still keep that true, and we're seeing that if you're looking at the commons and uncommons, you are seeing the sort of compared to Dominaria, for example, the power level and like the overall wordiness. Like you see the New World Order pushing down on that. But they also said that they really wanted to refocus on using core sets how they used to be, which is to put some stopgap cards in there. And if you're looking at some of the things we have, like I'll mention something like Alpine Moon is a card we got that is a single red for an enchantment that says when it enters the battlefield, name a choose a non-basic land card name. Lands your opponent's control with the chosen name, lose all land types and abilities they gain tap to add 1 mana of any color. So that is a pretty good hoser for things like Tron, for example. And they can just put that in the core set without it having to make sense within the rest of the set.
Yeah, you don't need any sort of like fictional hangings for that. It's just like, hey, this is a thing.
We got another card. Also, this is in Spanish, so this is the translation, but it's Contrite Cleric, which is a white and a colorless for a 2/1 flyer. And it says, sacrifice it, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Great. Like, that's just the kind of thing that, like, should exist. So the core set gets to do that. But the other thing they did, and they really haven't done this very much, Origins tried it a little bit, but really core sets generally haven't told, like, stories. We've seen them tell, like, arena stories, if that makes sense. And I say arena, but, like, Duels of the Planeswalkers. Like, we saw the Garrick, when he became sort of black, green, and evil. That was a story.
Yeah.
But now we're getting, like, this is about Bolas and his backstory, and we're getting... these solid story cards, the Elder Dragons, as we call it. Good job, by the way, Morgan. That was a good call on that.
Yeah.
But we're getting these sort of lore pieces that the core set really isn't generally known for. And again, I was so excited about Dominaria. So if this is what they're going to continue with, like how they're going to do the lore, then I'm pretty excited. So
yeah.
I see it checking all these boxes, but I think it's cool that they sort of revamped how they're going to do it. Like, okay. Oh, and also one of the other things he said is making sure that they're going to use their sort of reprint area of this set to be effective. And to that end, like I said, we've gotten some pretty good reprints. I will say we already have 3 mythic reprints, right? Because we have Scapeshift, as you mentioned, in Crucible, but we also have Omniscience.
Yeah.
So
and, that's obviously a legacy card and a commander card and things like that. Not really a modern plant, or probably not really going to do very many broken things in standard. But it's a card that is hard to potentially fit into a set. And it originally showed up in the core set anyway, so it makes sense for it to kind of show up here again and keep the price down for that card that sees play.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some cards you wanted? We're not going to do a full thing. Set reviews coming soon, but what are some cards that caught your eye?
I think that we should probably talk about the new Ajani.
Fair enough.
Because that's the only traditional, I'll say the only traditional Planeswalker we have other than Vivian. And it's Ajani, Adversary of Tyrants. And it's 2 generic white for a legendary Planeswalker, Ajani. And it has a +1, and it says put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Has a -2 of return target creature card with converted mana cost of 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And has a -7. You get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, create 3 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink. So this is a weird card. I don't think there is a deck that really exists in the format that can really take advantage of this Ajani. But I think like some of the effects that it does have can be potentially powerful. Obviously, being able to bring back a creature is pretty good. There's a lot of people that have said that this has obviously really good synergy with the snake, but your mana doesn't exist for that to be a thing at all whatsoever from what I can see. But I think this Planeswalker is very, very medium, and probably less interesting than something even like Vivian would be as far as like standard playability. But sometimes 4-mana planeswalkers do surprise you. We don't really know what else is going to be coming down the pipeline in M19, but this one would need some other cards to help it out, I think.
Yeah, I'm not at all excited for this, Johnny. And I said, unless they're putting like, Jace Vryn's Prodigy, I don't know if I really care too much. I know, again, it is definitely good with Winding Constrictor, as you mentioned, but I don't know. This is not looking at all the different 4 slots, 4 drops you can play in this standard. This has to do a lot.
Yeah, I agree
to get that slot. So
especially when we have such a good like generic planeswalker and colorless with Karn, it feels kind of unfair to be like comparing like any other planeswalker that costs like 4 to be like, well, is it better than what Karn can do?
But I don't think that's unfair at all. Now, granted, that card encourages attacking better than Karn does
for sure.
But yeah, no, I agree. And now, granted, Karn doesn't have an ultimate, but Johnny's ultimate is pretty weak. You never judge a planeswalker by its ultimate, but that ultimate is pretty weak.
Yeah,
so.
The Elspeth uptick at your it's like lifelink, lifelink matters, but I mean it's not. It doesn't feel like and maybe kudos to WotC for not trying to make like these planeswalkers with horrendous game winning ultimates, especially if they can come down and get to them with relative quickness or ease. He does start at 4, goes up to 5, and you can get there in a couple turns. But I don't think that there's enough of a structure that we've seen right now, but that could change. That could very well change, especially when we have something like Mentor the Meek re-entering the format, where maybe you get some value off of that +1. But there's just a lot of things that have to go right for this card to be like viable.
Right. Let's talk the new Nicol Bolas.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one, but I'll let you cover it.
Fair enough. This is Nicol Bolas, the Ravager, and this is a 4/4 legendary creature, Elder Dragon. There we go. That costs a generic blue, green, or blue, black, and a red. I can't talk all of a sudden. It is Grixis colored. It says flying. It says when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card, and then if you pay 4 generic Grixis, so blue, black, red, exile Nicol Bolas the Ravager, then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. Activate this ability only the time you could activate a sorcery. So we have the return of a flip card, and I say a flip card because we do have some confirmation from Mark Rosewater.
This is the only flip card.
So there's that.
Man, how excited are you going to be to open that checklist card in your packs?
The backside of those, Nicol Bolas the Arisen, and this is a legendary planeswalker. Bolas starts 7 loyalty and has 4 abilities. +2, draw 2 cards. Good. -3, Nicol Bolas deals 10 damage to our creature or planeswalker. He's dead.
and
Zap.
Like Gulta. Okay, your Gulta stays around.
Oh, you did it. Yeah, the big
He's a big dinosaur.
-4, put our creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So anything. And then -12, exile all but the bottom card of target player's library. He even does it better than Jace did.
Yeah. I guess just all but one. It's like, I'll leave you one.
Yeah, you get one.
You get one.
Make it a good one. Yeah, so this is pretty awesome. So first off, we get a new Nicol Bolas as a creature, which we haven't had since Nicol Bolas. And the creature version of this isn't bad. Grixis might be tough on 4 depending on what you're doing, but we already have had a Grixis deck, so it's probably not that bad.
Yeah.
But you just get a 4/4 dragon that has a relevant ETB effect.
Correct.
And then when you get to 7 mana, you get one of the best planeswalkers probably ever printed.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is definitely up there. All of the things that this planeswalker can do are very good. Very, very good. And this is an ultimate that ends the game. Like, unless, like, you are already very, very far behind. But even then, you're probably winning unless you're.
I want to know the board state where you even need to ultimate based on all the other abilities.
I mean, other than like just
like I got enough loyalty to ultimate this. I definitely couldn't have won any other way.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this card's good. It is a heck of an investment. It's gonna hurt when you get blown out when trying to activate it and sinking 7 mana at sorcery speed.
Right. The colon is after the mana cost but before the exile. So you can definitely have a removal spell pointed at it, and it currently, like in standard, for example, still technically dies the fatal push. So it's kind of hilarious. Nicol Bolas could die to fatal push. Like, oh no,
I can feel it. My spark is. Oh no, I slipped.
It's just like, oh my gosh, Homer Simpson tumbling down the Springfield Gorge.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, it's really cool, and again, super flavorful, and I think even the art style difference between, like, as Morgan talked about last week, the Elder Dragon-esque Nicol Bolas on the front side, and then the Planeswalker more, how do I say this, like humanoid Nicol Bolas on the back, like as he's like, no, I am no longer just some peasant dragon, I am the dragon. It's pretty sweet. So
Yeah.
very
He gets his egg, and then he
Yes.
becomes a human, kinda.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
He just sings like, I want to be like you. And
Yeah, I want to be like you.
In addition to him, though, we also have gotten a number of the Elder Dragons.
Yeah,
as
we
sort of
have
referenced.
4 out of 5 currently. We still don't have, what's his wagon?
Davis, Platius, Chromium. Wait, we have 4?
Yeah,
'cause
because
of
of Nicol Bolas.
That's fair. Oh, I'm thinking of Ural as the Chromium's like girlfriend. Who am I forgetting?
It's like Asmodee or something like that.
Is it Veevictus Asmodee?
Yeah, Vivictus Asmodee, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Okay. No, we have Veevictus. No, that's Veevictus Asmodee the Dyer. We have that already.
It's the Bant one. I forget what the Bant one
I'm
is.
gonna get it.
Anyway, we don't have the Bant one yet. But we do have...
Arcadia Sabath.
Yeah, Sabath, that's right. So we'll probably get that, I would say, with probably tomorrow, let's be real.
Yeah, probably.
With the way that they've been rolling these out, we've pretty much gotten like one a day. And I feel like...
Like the men's vitamin.
yeah, one a day. But there are a lot of cool cards so far that we have actually seen, and a lot of things that we haven't seen in a while, to be perfectly honest. But I don't want to get too deep on it. I feel like we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about for the set review, so we'll save it till then, and probably talk a little bit about... I imagine we'll know everything by next week, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, that's probably true. So,
because we have the pre-release this weekend. So,
ooh,
with that being the case, if they don't spoil everything by this Friday, there's going to be cards that are just spoiled on the stream.
fair enough. I guess we're going to talk about this right here live on the air. But if they spoil everything by Friday, are we looking to Palooza next week or no?
I don't know. I think we're going to try to rope in Dave, because
Okay.
he did want to come back for those. So we have to talk to Dave and see if that's something he's interested in. But if not, then yeah, I don't see why we,
If
wouldn't
we get
realistically.
the full set, we will do. You'll get Palooza Part 1 more than likely.
Oh, for sure.
So if not, we'll do some national stock.
Yeah. So next up, we do have another chapter in our the first chapter, I guess, in the Magic story for M19.
We got the twins.
Yes.
Which was about two grandchildren of Yasova Dragonclaw of not the Temur clan anymore.
No.
The Atarka clan, I guess. This is in the timeline after Sarkhan has gone back, and the one is a sort of the Temur are the ones who had like the sort of like the druids and the shamans who could commune with spirits of nature. Different than the Abzan who could like commune with like the spirits of the dead. These ones are just like spirits of nature. And the one girl here is sort of a call for Yasova Dragonclaw. And of course, Dragonclaw is a name that's been outlawed since Atarka sort of stuck around and took over, because Dragonclaw implies that you can kill dragons.
Yeah.
So don't do that. It's also why Sirach became the hunt caller, because like again, you can't kill dragons.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to go and talk to Ugin. So I think it's kind of interesting because they also got a glimpse into the birth of the Elder Dragons. So the Elder Dragons were all birthed by the Dragon, which is the same dragon that you've seen in the Commander series most recently.
Big old dragon.
So the Dragon is supposed to be the one that created these dragon storms. Now on Tarkir, that could have been Ugin. They supposedly may have made those. There's now talk that because of, well, I guess I'll explain why in a second, but Ugin may have actually created Tarkir,
yeah.
which is kind of sweet. But essentially, the eggs fall from the sky, and the dragons have to escape from the egg before they crash and die. And then they name themselves, and they go forth. And one egg comes down and has 2 dragons in it. And lo and behold, it's Nicol Bolas and Ugin.
Yep, two dragons, 1 stone. Yep.
And his brother, which is it's a huge retcon. Let's be honest, it's a huge retcon.
Oh yeah.
But it's a good retcon.
Yeah, you're making. I think that by that, we both listen to the Vorthos cast,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they've talked about this before, where it's like you can have bad retcons that don't really make any sense, but you can have a good retcon that fixes the story or makes it better.
And this is pretty interesting. So we are probably going to get some more stories about that, but it's pretty because, like, obviously, ostensibly, all of that flashbacking was to Dominaria because that's where those Elder
Yes.
Dragons are from. But so this woman, this girl who's of the Temur clan from Tarkir, had a vision about the birth of dragons on Dominaria. And obviously, we know that Nicol Bolas and Ugin both become planeswalkers. So it's kind of interesting that Ugin's reaching out because we know that Ugin stays in stasis, essentially, right?
Yeah,
From the time
to
that
heal.
he's like cocooned in stasis to heal, and he heals all the way until, literally when Sorin goes and finds him right on Tarkir. So. Because we had those parallel Sorin stories, the one where Ugin was dead and the one where Ugin was alive. So I don't know what that means. Like, is she going to commune with Ugin's spirit and what that means story wise? But I think it's insane that we got this glimpse into the Elder Dragons and some of the we mentioned them already, but some of the flavor text for the new Elder Dragons mentions the Elder Dragon War, which is something that was sort of alluded to a couple times in the past, and that's why only some of these Elder Dragons survived. So we might see a whole bunch of dragons, and then they'll fight, and then we'll see what happens. So I'm pretty excited to see where the story goes with this. I was not expecting them to go this route with it, but we knew Tarkir was going to be big for this set.
Yeah.
But for them to keep a whole narrative piece going and give us more insight onto these characters, and again, the Elder Dragon characters besides Nicol Bolas, they are strangely named characters from Legends, a set that Magic could just ignore, honestly, at this point. And they were like, nah, we're doing it. We're hitting the gas pedal. We're going back in.
Yeah,
and
and I mean, like, you even had, like, Umezawa, come back and it'd be relevant again, which hasn't really been a thing since Kamigawa. And, like, that family even has, like, a story to tell involving Nicol Bolas, so, like, they're playing their cards right, I think.
Yeah,
and
I think so as well.
I think it is awesome because, like, these dragons, when you look at their legend cards, like, they're something. They're certainly something. And I don't think they really do them justice, and I think these cards that we're seeing in M19 are doing a far better job at that. And having, like,
Except for Vivek Asbani. That card's bad.
Yeah, that card's bad. At least the art looks less goofy.
Well, that's true, and I also think that it's cool to see modern takes on it. Because, like, for example, and we didn't talk about the card, but, like, we got a new Chromium card today, and if you look at the Chromium art from Legends, it's literally someone said, "Okay, this dragon's named Chromium. All right, shiny metal dragon,
shiny metal dragon."
And
so what if we put wings on Grimlock? Oh yeah, that's Chromium then. Yeah, we got it. We did it.
So Goldar?
Yeah.
How about Sylvdar?
But a dragon.
But a dragon. I mean, Goldar's close to a dragon.
Okay. Long neck
He's
dragon.
like one of those cat dragons.
Sure. Yeah, he's definitely a cat dragon. I'll give you that.
So, anyways, I think it's pretty cool, and I think it's a little surprising, again, that they're doing this with the core set. The last core set, Origins, we got the origin stories of some Planeswalkers, but those weren't sort of united in any other larger story thing. It was just like, hey, let's flesh this out.
Yeah.
So I like that this is, as we know that we're leading into an end game with Nicol Bolas, like, yeah, keep the focus here. I like this.
For sure.
So
I'm excited to see how it kind of, comes out. And I wonder if it's I feel like it's going to be pretty segmented. I feel like it's going to focus on the Elder Dragons and probably mainly Bolas and Ugin and kind of track them throughout time. I don't know how clear of a storyline it'll be, but
yeah, it'd be pretty sweet.
We'll just have to wait and see.
It also, I think, interesting to see, and as far as I know, that's some crazy. Like, we don't really know. Like, we got his transformed Planeswalker. We don't know anything about Ugin, but we don't really know what caused him to spark.
Yeah, how'd he get that egg?
Yeah, so you gonna crunch it?
You gonna crunch that egg?
You should really listen to the Vorthos.
It's very funny and informative.
This is true. So, but definitely pretty sweet. So.
And the last thing we're going to talk about for community is the beta draft that happened. So if you didn't know, at GP Vegas, you could go and pay to be part of an event that qualified you, if you won, for a draft. It's a Rochester draft, which if you don't know what that is, you open a pack of Magic cards and you lay that out, and then you go around and you pick a card from that pack, and that's a Rochester draft. But you could do that with beta packs, which is obviously something that not many people necessarily got to do, at least recently.
I'm trying to remember. Like, I have to go back and look at the Pro Tour stuff. Magic wasn't initially designed as a draft format, and you could tell if you watch the beta draft, you could tell by the fact that you could have up 6 basic lands in a pack.
Very good.
So I don't know if anybody's actually Rochester beta, at least consistently.
I mean, this is definitely the largest stage for it, I would say. Yeah. I don't know how many people like casually Rochester drafted, but it could have. It might be a non-zero number.
Well, at least 8 now.
Yeah, at the very least 8 now. So we got to watch that, and that was fairly interesting. So, and this draft definitely had a lot of even notable faces in it. To be perfectly honest, we had people like LSV, we had Ben Stark, we had Martin Yuza, being like just casually, 3 Hall of Famers that won their way into this once in a lifetime sort of event. And some other folks, I'm going to pull up their names here. We had John Holliday, Matthew Gosler, Ian Suzuki, Tim Riviera, and Hemant Patel.
And he's the so-called side event king, correct? Is that
yeah. He like. There's a whole like Twitter thread about someone who talked about him and kind of gave his backstory if you didn't already know about it. And I read the entire thread, and it was really interesting to kind of learn about his sort of past of the game, because he's been playing for a very, very long time. So it was kind of cool to find out more about a player you may not know about that has a really, really interesting story. And like the only way you got to do this was through him qualifying for this draft. And they televised it, or streamed it, I guess, and it was awesome. I know that I watched the entire thing, and like there was, I've never like watched pack openings with as much tension or drama as there was in opening these packs that could have thousands of dollars of cards in them, which is not something you would typically get to see. And it was there were a lot of funny things. They had like white gloves.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious
for the players if they
the players took them off because you couldn't pick up the card with the
correct
glove.
But and you had like Aaron Forsyth sitting in on to cover the draft as well, because like he obviously knows like a lot of the cards from just being with R&D for so long, and we had some pretty exciting things opened.
I will say Forsyth said he has uncut beta sheets on his office walls,
yeah,
which is why he was so intimately aware of the format.
He's just staring at him for a long time, But I mean, like I think the biggest thing we had open was Emerald. Is it Emerald or Time Walk?
I want to say Time Walk's more, but I could be wrong. But yeah, those are the 2 huge ones that were open.
I mean,
and it was cool because you could hear the crowd, because they said it was like 7 rows deep, just people in person trying to watch it.
Yeah.
And every time something like that was open, just like the gasping or the cheering from the crowd was great.
Yeah, and you had a Time Vault. You had a couple of 3 duels total. We had a plateau, which the plateaus are actually they're really cool because they don't have that art anymore. The
revised and unlimited ones don't have that art because they actually deleted the art file.
Yeah, they lost it. So oops. And then you had if you're going to open a beta duel, you want to open Underground Sea, which is what was opened, and then a Scrubland, which ain't too shabby either.
Ain't no scrub.
Ain't no scrub. But there's a lot of now. I'm not going to say like. The cards are bad. Like a lot of the cards are just like real
really
terrible.
Bad, or really specifically hosing a color.
Oh yeah, you have a bunch of circle protections, and you have your
things like Karma.
Yeah, Karma. Your red and blue. Is it blasts?
Yeah, red and blue. That's last. You have like Life Force, which just counters black spells. Why not? Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. You also have things like Tsunami, destroys all islands and stuff. It's.
I know that there were a bunch of fireballs that were opened.
So there were fireball and disintegrate are both in the set. So there are many X spells,
many red X spells that just get you dead. And
I think there was only 1 lightning bolt, sadly enough.
Yeah, 1 or 2. Not a whole lot of beta bolts.
There was a counter spell.
There was a counter spell.
There was a clone.
There was a clone. There was a giant growth, or a few giant growths that I think were opened as well. So, plenty of healing salves that no one wanted, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, and it was awesome to see, to have an opportunity to watch. I think was it Tim Riviera was the winner. He defeated LSV in the finals. Which is, something to say, put on here. And they got an alpha starter deck.
Yeah, which is insane.
That is pretty wild. You probably, I want to know what's in it. Like, I wonder if, Tim cracked it open and shared its contents anywhere. But, I don't know. It was like an interesting, like, bit of Magic history that I'm glad I got to experience. And it was really cool. It was a really cool thing to see. Also, like, you very rarely ever get to see like Rochester draft happening unless you are attending Dave's Cube Invitational. So it was nice to see it kind of happen, and it felt like it went really fast.
Yeah, it did go quick. Now, granted, a lot less cards in the pack, and a lot less meaningful picks.
That's true. Yeah, it always feels like Rochester drafting for the Cube Invitational takes ages.
It's because it does.
Okay.
That's just that
Fair
format.
enough. I just wanted to make sure that how I felt was factual.
I know that they're doing a couple more of these.
Yes. So Gen Con.
Yeah, and I'm going to Gen Con specifically to try and qualify for this. I don't know if I'll get to or not, but I want it. I want it bad.
Yeah, I mean, like that is a very cool thing. If I were attending Gen Con more avidly than what I'm going to be doing this year, unfortunately, then that could be something I would go for. But probably won't be my main goal. But it'll be cool to see. And hopefully, I think they said they're going to try to stream that as well. So you'll have another opportunity to watch this live, which is pretty awesome. So that's going to be everything for our community segment. Before we jump into competitive, I do want to give a shout out to our lovely sponsor, Comic Town. They, of course, are going to be running M19 pre-releases. So they're going to have 6 events across the weekend of July 7th through the 8th. So you can check out more information about their events by checking them out at Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. And make sure you reserve your spot if you want to be a part of their M19 pre-release.
Absolutely. And if you're a person who likes to be a degenerate and do all of the events, they do have what's called the Gauntlet.
Yeah, you can run the Gauntlet
and compete for it. By all means,
go. Yeah, more power to you. So competitive. Obviously, we talked about the beta draft. That was part of GP Vegas, and GP Vegas was 2 GPs, which started on Friday, carried over all the way through Sunday. The first event that actually happened was the Modern GP, but that's the one we're going to focus on mainly. So we're going to start off here with the limited event. It was won by Michael Burnett with a top 8 featuring Andrew Cuneo and Steve Rubin. So a couple of notable faces, but congratulations to Michael to taking down that GP in the Dominaria limited format. I think that something that I do want to note about the limited GP that I did get to watch is they definitely filmed a lot of drafts and a lot of different seats in a draft. So you get to review multiple people's, how they drafted in the pod, which I think was really cool.
That is cool.
Because to me, that's the most exciting thing about like drafting, or at least viewing a draft is like the actual draft portion. That's where a lot of the strategy is, and it's exciting to see booster packs quote unquote get open. They're already open, so but
No, I get what you're saying.
But yeah, so let's talk about and focus on the Modern GP. It was taken down by none other than Matt Nass, playing Croc Clan Ironworks, KCI.
Playing what?
Clan Ironworks?
No, what the first one?
Croc Clan Ironworks?
Croc.
Sorry.
2 R's.
It's hard.
Croc. I thought you said Croc.
Yeah,
Ironworks,
the PS1 game Croc, everyone's favorite.
I was going Croc Pop, but I'll take that one too.
KCI, which is the new combo deck on the block there, the kind of new, kind of old combo deck, I guess. And let's take a look at the rest of the top 8 here. I know he defeated Yuri Ramsey in the finals, who was piloting Mono Green Tron. So Ancient Stirrings had a really good weekend this weekend, to say the least. We also had Martin Yuza playing Humans, and then Ben Freeman playing Grixis Shadow. Luke Renaud playing Bant Company.
I haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, that's a Riley Curran favorite right there. We had Patrick Tierney playing Jessica Control, and then Ellie Cassis with another KCI deck here at the top 8. Now, to take a look at the top 16, there are a lot of both. There are a lot of Trons, and there are a few more KCI decks, but a lot of Tron showed up to the tournament, which I think makes complete sense. If you're aiming to beat Jeskai, you go over the top of them, which Tron is very capable of, and you still have a pretty okay humans matchup. So it makes sense to me to see this kind of deck sort of show up to the tournament and do pretty well. But everything else, though, I mean, I think Tron definitely had a good weekend at KCI. Showed up a little bit, and it showed its prominence a little bit more. I think it's a deck that, if the format isn't really prepared to tackle it or attack it, can be pretty difficult to do, and it's pretty resilient. We saw it throughout the tournament go off through many meddling mages from the humans deck, which is really, really impressive. And they they have really kind of figured out some interesting lines and opportunities that the deck has that can really be exploitable. This is a deck that you can definitely plan for, and a lot of things that are just good hate cards in general hit it. Rest in Peace hits it, Kataki hits it, Stony Silence obviously hits it pretty hard. These are cards that you could already be playing that do a pretty good job of hating out the deck. It's definitely something you now have to put on your radar. I think the more popular this deck gets, the more it's going to get played. Now, it's a complicated deck. It's not easy to play. So it sort of has the Lantern eggs sort of feel, where it's like, yes, the deck is powerful and can clearly do some broken things, but it's also very complicated to play. So you can't just pick it up and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to have instantaneous success with it. I mean, we see like some of the top people playing the deck that are good Magic players that grind with the deck consistently, which we heard stories from LSV about Matt Nass, Andrew Beckstrom, and Sam Pardee, really putting in a lot of time and a lot of effort developing this deck. So it makes sense to see Matt Nass here, and I think across the three recent GPs, he's won 2 of them with KCI, and has like some absurd win percentage across the 3 GPs, which is wild to me. So, what do we want to highlight from this modern GP?
I think one thing I want to say is immediately there were calls for bannings of things like Mox Opal and Ancient Stirrings, and while I think like the concept of banning like Mox Opal has been something that's been realistic for a long time, just because of how they've tried to like stop fast mana, like that makes sense. Yeah. But it's important to remember that like Matt Nass won this event because Matt Nass is a weird genius with these kind of decks.
Yeah.
But also that like this and Tron had room to do well because Jeskai was so overly represented. Snapcaster and Bolts are great, but sometimes you have to do these sort of degenerate things to get those decks to course correct. And this is just a metagame thing. You know what I mean? So I think like the people are like, oh man, Ironworks won. Well, Matt Nass is the one who's won both of them. So ban that Nass if you need to.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I think you got to give it a little bit of time. The same people called for bannings after Lantern won the Pro Tour, and literally when's the last time we saw a Lantern deck do well? The last 2 times we saw any sort of version of deck do well like that wasn't even Lantern. It was the mono blue bridge Tezzeret deck. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
So I think that after looking at this, yeah, you can say that okay, maybe it wasn't great fun to watch that deck go off, but stop immediately calling for bans. Okay, that's where I would say it first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean that is a fairly annoying thing to kind of come out of the Magic community as far as that is concerned. I think there are definitely plenty of pieces within both things like Tron and this deck that could realistically see a ban and not be very surprising. Ancient Stirrings, I'm looking at you, but I do feel that I agree that the decks that we see doing well. We're most certainly, a metagame call. And again, like they're not unbeatable. And moreover, we already talked about a card that's going to be introduced to the format that definitely hurts Tron, and is narrow but still pretty effective. And there are new cards coming in all the time, and there's cards that already exist that help answer these strategies. And you just have to you just have the metagame, and you have to like plan accordingly. And sometimes you're just gonna have matchups that you just can't beat, or that you are willing to lose to. And now I think that maybe you could shift in a couple more graveyard hate cards or something that shuts down artifacts more consistently and be able to combat what, at least what Matt Nass and somewhat of what, Tron is trying to do depending on what you are deciding to play. But you have options for sure.
Yeah, I think that the one thing about the current... So if you don't know what Karkland Ironworks is trying to do, Karkland Ironworks is an artifact that costs 4 mana. It's a sacrifice an artifact, add 2 generic to your mana pool. When combined with a bunch of cantrip artifacts and then Scrap Trawler and Mirror Retriever, which allow you to get artifacts back, you can actually assemble a combo where you always are gaining mana off of these.
Yeah.
And then eventually you just start recurring Pyrite Spellbomb and you kill them with Pyrite Spellbomb. They're not even casting Emrakul anymore, which I think is pretty important.
Yeah.
So, because like the earliest builds of Karkland Ironworks are always just trying to cast Emrakul. They don't even care about that anymore. I don't need to cast that.
Yeah, and some of the builds obviously still have that option.
Some do, yes.
But it's not necessarily something you need to be doing anymore to consistently get wins.
I think though, like looking at the top 8, as far as where to look, obviously, like I think Humans is still good, and it put up a fair amount of numbers in the top 32. I think we should take a look at Grixis Shadow, just because that is a deck that's been sort of fighting for metagame share, and obviously Brett Freeman's a guy who's not let it go, but I think it's pretty interesting to see it to make it this far. And I kind of looking at it, I'm not seeing anything new or crazy. It's just probably just a good pilot.
Yeah.
You have... I'm trying to think here. He's still playing Tier Battle Rage, which I think is absolutely correct. I did like he did have 2 Abrades in his sideboard.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty spicy one, especially when you consider how this tournament played out.
For sure.
But also just a very good card to also have access to with Snapcaster Mage.
And like you say like this deck isn't something we've seen recently, which is very true. But we also haven't seen the metagame shift this way, where we have a large presence of Tron or something like that for a while either, which I think could be to this deck's benefit. So maybe this, maybe Ben just had a lot of positive.
Maybe Tron is not a good matchup for this deck.
That might be true.
Ironworks is a little bit better because Ironworks you can rip apart their hand and then present a large enough threat that it's hard for them to get through. He still struggled with it a little bit though.
Yeah.
Stubborn Isle is good against them, but Tron is tough.
Fair enough.
Is tough. But I thought it was at least worth talking about that. You see that back, and maybe this metagame does shift that way because unfortunately, Grixis Shadow is good. It was sort of the control deck and aggressive deck for a while, and with Jeskai coming back so hard, any deck that has multiple bolts and Snapcasters makes it pretty hard for the deck that's taxing its own life total.
Yeah, I mean, like Teferi was such a huge boon to the Jeskai control decks that it really really powered them up and kind of pushed this Grixis Shadow list, out of the picture for a bit. The deck's still, clearly playable, still good, just maybe not as effective as it once was. Well, not the scourge of the format everyone, tried to make it out to be, and I think it's okay. Like, I think that maybe this might revitalize people's interest in it, and they might try to start playing it again just to see see how it pairs up with where things are at currently.
I think the same was probably also true for Bant Company, which we saw in the top 8, and also there's Devoted Company in 12th place as well. So some company decks coming back for a little bit. We haven't seen those pretty much at all. I will say the big mana matchups still tend to be tough for them. But the nice thing is that those decks are better at against like KCI, for example, at being able to pull out. Looking at, for example, Luke Renaud's list. He's got Phyrexian Revoker in the sideboard, Pride Mage in the sideboard, Scavenger Ooze in the sideboard, Rex Sage in the sideboard. Those are pretty good. Worship as well is kind of interesting. Though I guess you can just kill your creatures.
Yeah.
but those things combined with Collected Company means you can go and do those. And I think it would be very hard to to imagine in the next few weeks you would see again, like what can't I think of all of a sudden? The War's Wage.
Kataki.
Thank you, Kataki. Coming in there because I was going to call it Kasali, and I'm like, that's because I saw the Pride Mage.
Right.
So I think it's at least interesting, and that those decks made this kind of a top 8 appearance because I know this is a lot of people's sort of favorite style of deck, and it's really been kind of kicked down for a while. I also want to point out that he was playing one Judge's Familiar. That card almost took down another major tournament.
Yeah.
It's already got 2 Pro Tours.
Jeez. It just wants another.
There were a couple other sort of spicy decks in the top 32, if you want to go a little bit beyond. So they're in... hold on here. We had a couple copies of Hollow 1, Mike Sigris in 10th place. Where'd it go? 22nd place, though. Travis De Silva?
Yeah, Thopter Sword.
Yeah, Thopter Sword. Also playing Clark Clan Ironworks, just so you know. But this deck is literally has no creatures, and it has 4 War of Invention, and it is trying to just assemble the an Ensnaring Bridge and then Thopter Sword to get through. I think it's pretty sweet, actually. Without that was another one of those unbannings that was supposed to destroy everything in Modern, and this is a combination that really hasn't done anything. So pretty sweet to see it here, trying to do some things. Also, it has Tezzeret Agent of Bolus in the sideboard, and that card is sweet.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like that card should almost make it to the main.
Yeah.
In all honesty, just as another like kill condition, because I don't know, maybe it's fine. Like obviously, you could just probably kill pretty easily with a sword. You get to control your ensnaring bridges that you have, so you can always they attack with your 1/1s and then play whatever you're going to play. So, but this is another deck that kind of gets to play Mox Opal to really good. To its advantage, and I'm surprised more people haven't tried it with Whir, coming out to the forefront in the Kaladesh block. It really feels like if you're going to play a combo based artifact deck, like that's exactly what you want, obviously. So I'm good at people. People are trying it, and I think like that's pretty cool. I hope that people still keep working on this deck and get it to really shine in the future meta, because like Thopter Sword's cool. It doesn't break, and so far hasn't like destroyed anything. So
No, it's a nice little collection there. Now I will say, looking at the sideboard of this deck too, we have a cool sideboard card in Battle of the Bridge. That's a sweet one. But I want to mention Damping Sphere, which is a card that got a lot of hype when Dominaria was printed, and we've seen it as like 1-ofs in sideboard slots. Here it's pretty nice because you can War of Invention for it. But it's important to note that Damping Sphere does play good defense against both Tron and the KCI decks.
Yep.
They can't go off through this. They make a lot of mana. They don't make infinite mana. Eventually, they're in their loops, their spells are going to cost 10, 20. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. It doesn't work. So, I could see that being sort of the card that people go to as well after this week. Because, again, those decks. Now, granted, Tron is probably going to be bringing in some disenchant effects of some way, Nature's Claim, that sort of thing. But KCI's got a little tougher road to go on that one, so it's worth taking a look at that card and seeing how well it's positioned right now. Because people think that second ability is only for Storm, but KCI has to essentially go off like a Storm deck too, so it's worth mentioning. And then I want to mention one other deck, Esper Gifts, in 29th place by Dustin Galt. This is a deck after my own heart. It's got Grave Titan. It's got Elish Norn. It's got Gifts Ungiven. It's got Unbearer Rights. It's got the Wrath of God Supreme Verdict. And is it the only
Day of
two?
Judgment.
Where is it at? Day of Judgment. Okay, there it is. Okay, like it's got that whole mishmash. Right. I really like this deck. I don't know if it's good, but I really like this deck because I like Gifts Ungiven.
I guess he's not playing a Day of Judgment.
Oh no, he's not. That's weird.
Oh well, maybe he just can't fit the whole set.
Yeah, but it makes your gifts weird.
Yeah, make sure you always get a Wrath. You have a Wrath.
To be fair, you can get Snapcaster.
Oh yeah.
So, and he's playing 3 copies of Esper Charm in this list. He's also playing a Disallow. That's pretty sweet. You got to vary your counter spells to make your Gifts Ungiven work. But I think this kind of deck is pretty sweet. You have good finishers. You don't see the Iona here, which is kind of sad. Though if you look in the sideboard, he's got a real sweet one. He's got a Teferi Mage of Zhalfir.
Oh yeah, that's just the bee's knees right there.
Man, I remember having that card resolved against me in Splinter's Twin Mirrors and just going, "Oh nope, we're done."
Oh, I'm dead.
Oh, that's
weird.
weird. I can't cast spells.
Yeah,
So,
this deck looks pretty cool. Not gonna lie.
yeah, I like it a lot. So
I'm sure it's a pretty difficult deck to pilot though.
yeah,
Lots of choices.
Yeah, we could figure it out. It's worth it.
And hey, if you want a way to play both your Teferi and your Jace, there you go.
I like it. Yeah, or you could play Teferi and Teferi. That's weird.
Yeah, you can play them both.
I don't know if I like that, but yeah, but that was kind of cool. So yeah, there was a couple of interesting lists, mixed in. We still see the normal things like Martyr Pyromancers. A couple copies are around of that. But I will say, beyond that, it does start to get a little less diverse for this top 32. So
yeah, I think that we, for this tournament, it feels like we had a defined metagame kind of going in, and people exploited it, and that's kind of why we don't see as much diversity as we might, hope in our metagame. But I don't know. I think that Modern has had its big shakeups with Dominaria coming out, and it's still kind of finding its footing. And we are going to be getting some exciting cards in M19, actually. There's a new Storm Hate card, which is pretty blatant, to say the least.
It's super blatant, right? Because it also hits tokens, so
yes,
it also turns off the goblins.
It turns off all of your goblins, and definitely does not make great shot a castable card against you. So it is interesting to kind of see where this metagame kind of shifted for this tournament. I do wonder how dominant Tron's going to be. I think I'm not necessarily worried about KCI. That's a far more difficult deck to pilot, at least learn, than something like Tron. So I wonder if Tron will keep its dominance, or if it'll allow things that prey on the Tron deck to kind of show up.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Tron go sort of back and forth on that, so I think it's going to continue to be sort of an arbiter of the format. And when it gets too dirtily, Tron's going to come in to punish you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's probably not as diverse, but I still think we have a fair amount of decks represented. And,
for sure. We won't see Modern for a little while anyways after this, because we have Standard GP next week, and then we have Nationals, which is Standard as well.
Right.
So up until I think that weekend we might get a Modern open. I have to check on that next week, but yeah. So it'll be to see where Modern goes from this week and how people react to Kirkland Ironworks being pretty good. Now, I will say, it did seem like GP Vegas in general, both of them, was quite the party. And I thought coverage was fun and did a good job with showing a lot of stuff, but also just some of the pictures we got from what was going on at GP Vegas. I know they had a giant Sarah Angel statue.
Yeah.
Surrounded by oversized cards of all of her different printings, which was pretty cool. There was a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Two people got married, and Reed Duke walked the bride down the aisle.
Because, why not?
And then somebody read from the comprehensive rules the ruling on soul bond, because they're going to get married. They're going to be soul bond.
Yeah.
So it's pretty romantic. Or blasphemous, depending on how you feel.
We had a lot of great cosplayers show up and show off their costumes, as well as play some Magic over the weekend. So there's some great pictures with that.
That sweet Karn Joria combo showing up there as well. They've been making the rounds, and that Karn cosplay is great.
It's just really good. You could get cake. They had cupcakes that were available. You get cake tickets and then redeem them for a celebratory cupcake. Because obviously this is celebrating the 25 years of Magic.
Now I do have a small bone to pick about that, because Origins Game Fair was also in town in the Columbus area this weekend, and Origins is actually the con that Magic debuted in 25 years ago, and Magic hasn't had a relevant presence at Origins in at least a decade, if not longer. Wizards is there, D&D is a huge part of it, but just Magic doesn't go there anymore. But it was just pretty frustrating to know that they have this giant party in Vegas, and that was the birthday, and then the actual place where the release of it happened got nothing. I don't know. I maybe it's just because I'm in Ohio and I'm salty for that reason. But it does seem that like that's a weird thing. Like to, I don't know. It's like, hey, it's my birthday. Are you gonna like celebrate it with your family? My family. What'd they do? Just give birth to me? That's not.
I got all these cool new friends.
Yeah, like come on, like ooh, okay.
I mean, like, yeah, I definitely can see, you know, they getting the idea, like, you dance with the one that brought you. I can definitely respect that. But I don't blame, you know, WotC for, you know, wanting to do their own thing and not necessarily
be attached to a con itself. I totally I get that.
To be perfectly honest, and this might sound a little bit harsh, but they've just outgrown Origins.
That is true. That's absolutely true.
At least like Magic has.
It would have been cool if there was something there. You know, maybe I'm just bitter because we still get pastimes. Like they're allowed to do that still, even though GPs didn't. But
yeah.
And not to say like the staff at Origins are great and all the judges there were awesome and doing what they have to do. But I just wish that I don't know. I wish they'd thrown them a bone in some way. They're like, oh hey, like now we're gonna cut to this thing at Origins where they get an exclusive card and like all the players here got to do this because. Hey, that's where we first nothing, and it's just weird to have Wizards employees there and represented as a company, and just be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I definitely could see the disappointment for sure,
but it's all right. It's still cool, and I look forward. I look forward to Gen Con and trying to get my own.
Gen Con is like that's the con. That's the place where they're going to show up.
I know it is, and it's much larger, and it is a you can play a million Magic events a day there if you want.
And it's you know, it's a cornerstone. It's the best 4 days in gaming, and they definitely mean it. And you know, that's where I mean, that's just where they're going to throw their weight. They're going to, you know, do the most thing, and they get to really own, you know, the space at Gen Con a little bit more. So yeah, but that's going to be it for competitive. So let's go ahead and move it to the wrap up here. So over the weekend, we have GP Pittsburgh and GP Singapore, which are going to be standard. So good luck to anyone attending those lovely tournaments. We also have the second round of the Regional Pro Tour qualifiers happening this weekend as well. So good luck to any players that are qualified for those. I hope that you all do well, play your sweet unified standard decks, and try to get qualified for that Pro Tour. But that's going to be everything that's happening over the weekend. So that's going to be the closing of our show. Before we let you go, definitely want to give a shout out to our Twitter. It's Your End Step, and when you add us, it's at Your End Step. And we also have an email address if you want to reach out to us on there. It's at yourendstep@gmail.com or Facebook. Do a quick search for at Your End Step, and we show right up. If you are listening to us on your iProduct, your iPhone, or your MacBook or something like that, leave us a review in the podcast app. It really helps get visibility up and get new listeners to the show. And if you're listening to us via MTGcast, be sure to check out some of the other lovely podcasts that they have on there. Wanted to give another shout out to Comic Town, of course. You can check them out at worldofcomictown.com or do a quick search for Comic Town Gaming Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. I don't know, my brain like shut down there. And then I did want to give another quick shout out to a local deck box or a magic accessory maker, Barbaric Woodcraft on Etsy. Again, they make some awesome custom wooden deck boxes, and they even have like a larger box for like commander decks and stuff like that. So definitely check them out. You can do a quick search for Barbaric Woodcraft on Etsy, and they'll show up. But yeah. If you do want to contribute a little bit more to the show, we do have a Patreon as well. It's patreon.com/atyourendstep. We thank all of our patrons for helping us put this show together for this week and helping keep the lights on. And if you want to find out some more information about our reward tiers and everything like that, definitely check out our Patreon. But that's going to be everything for us this week. Thank you for your time, and you have a great one. Bye.